Good to go? Good, thank you. My name is Rick Rugg. I'm with Lely North America, and on behalf of Richland Dairy, Lely North America, Leadstone, and Plainview, Minnesota, we welcome you here, and World Dairy Expo as well. But we certainly welcome you here, and hope you enjoy the virtual tour that we're about to embark upon. And so, this has been quite a few years since Lely sponsored this virtual tour, and this year we decided to do something. Each and every year we try to do something that brings a little bit uniqueness, something a little bit different to the table that you can sort of walk out of here and sort of hopefully have sort of a shake your head and, yeah, that can happen to me, or that hasn't happened to me. And this year we got sort of a unique tour ahead of us. I guess all the time we all have life lessons, and sometimes the life lessons are positive and sometimes they're negative, but I think all of us strive to make sure that no matter what the life lesson is that we try to be as positive as we can out of it and make good things happen. And so we're sort of excited about the tour that we have. So the way this is going to work is that we have a video that we'll start out with. And then what we're going to do is turn into a PowerPoint presentation where the Meyer family will be up here and to visit with you. And then we're going to leave some time at the end for some questions and answers. So I think at this time what I'm going to do is, before we get into the video, I'm going to introduce our host family, which is Al and Sharon Meyer from Minnesota, over by Casson, Minnesota, by Rochester, Minnesota. Many of you might know where Rochester, Minnesota is. And then their son, Sam and Andy. Andy and Sam. Might be the other way. So, okay, so at this time what we're going to do is go through this virtual tour, and then we'll start in and we'll jump right into the PowerPoint.
This farm has been in our family since shortly after World War II. My grandpa bought it in 1946. We started in an older facility. It was a wood frame stanchion barn. In 2010, Andy and I formed a partnership, and at that time we invested in new facilities, a fully automated robot barn using the Lely robots, a feed pusher, the brushes, a scraper, everything to make the robots work more efficiently. And they did real good for us. The A3 next is what we were using. We had real good luck with them, and the cows milked well, and we were doing good. September 20th, an EF1 tornado direct hit on our dairy barn, laid it on the ground. Every building damaged or destroyed except one. 4 tractors are down, and 2 skidlers are down. Just utter destruction, and just pieces of everything everywhere. The next day there was probably 100 people here helping pick up stuff. Andy was taking care of the cows over there. Maybe 150 people come the following day, and by that third day we were pretty well picked up.
At that point we had to decide if we should keep milking or hang it up, or what we should do.
We decided to rebuild on the existing footings and put in the new A5 robots.
So we went to our banker and said, we want to rebuild, we need a bunch of money, and the banker said, go for it. We need to get some robots. So we talked to Dairyland/Leadstone at the time.
We were told early on that we probably wouldn't be able to get the robots until April. Then it sounded like we could maybe bump it up to the end of January.
Wait a couple more days, and they said, how about November delivery? I said, that's awesome, let's do it. And we were up and running in 3.5 months. When we put the A5 in, the learning curve there was no learning curve, it was simple. They have designed that for almost anyone to run. You can get to where you want on the screen quicker. The robot connects quicker and smoother and quieter, and the cows are more comfortable. Within about 3 days, the whole herd had learned the robots all over again, all by themselves.
The amount of time required to get the milking done is reduced like to zero. You also get a lot of technology, the activity systems, the health monitoring, the weight of the cows, the butter, fat, and protein of the cow's milk. There's a lot of other things that come with the robots. When installing your robots, you have to have a different mindset. You're going to get away from the daily carry, lift, tug stuff to like, I need to sit and look at my phone, or I need to sit and look at the monitor to see if there's any issues going on within the herd.
We want to know if there's something going on in the barn and what caused the problems. And we have diagnosed problems from the cameras that we never would before.
Cow comfort is important. It's the number one thing when it comes to harvesting milk. With the Lely system and with our type of free flow, our cows, they can be cows. They can do what they want when they want.
Cows are free to go as they want. They're able to get feed. We also implemented cow brushes, which brushes their back all the time.
You're trying to do the best for the cow here, and then she responds with better production. We were generating just a smidgen under 6,000 pounds a day with the A3 Next, and that was 6,000 pounds for the year prior. Today it's 6,500 pounds on one and 7,000 pounds on the other.
We work with our customers to help them out to achieve their goals. It just helps these guys to be more profitable and more comfortable. Very seldom do you find a Lely producer that is under a lot of stress.
When you move to automation, you literally change your lifestyle. Do you want to go to the movie and then come and do some chores, or do you want to do push your fish cows through and then go to the movie? You do have way more flexibility.
If we don't want to milk cows at 5 o'clock at night when hay is ready, we just keep baling hay and we'll milk cows at 9 o'clock at night. The thing I love about being a dairy farmer is I can do what I love to do. I love looking at cows' production, their milk speed, their weight, all the tools that I have. Even the cell count tester. I can see the cow's cell count every day and monitor their health otherwise. That's what I enjoy about dairy farming, is seeing what these animals are capable of doing, and I can do that while sitting on a computer, listening to music, whatever I want. That's how I envision being a dairy farmer.
All right, before we get Al and Andy up here, I think what I'd personally like to do is, you seen him in the video, is Greg Lupke, along with all the robots that we have there, another integral partner that is also has to come is someone from the local Lely Center, someone that can help them, support them, that you can trust and rely on. And I think Greg has grown to develop a really long-lasting, trusting relationship with the Myers. So, Greg, I see you're here, so why don't you stand up, and thank you for all you've done with the Myers as well. We really appreciate that. So I think at this time, what we'll do is turn this over to Dad Andy and son, or there you go, that's a new one.
Brothers.
Brothers.
Yeah.
Daddy Al and son Andy.
Well, thanks for coming, everybody. Appreciate that. So, and that video is kind of weird because it actually sounded like we knew what was going on. That's kind of scary right there. Well, Grandpa started farming where we live now, and like right after World War II. Andy went to. I got my dad retired, and I got Andy through college, and I knew I was either going to do something or quit. I just couldn't continue the way we were doing it. He expressed interest in farming and milking cows, so then he was able to look at different milking systems in college. And we decided to go with 2 robots from the Lely company. Designed the barn to hold about 120 milking cows. We went from a 40-cow stanchion wood frame barn built in 1889 to the robot barn. We farm about 700 acres, corn, beans, alfalfa.
So when we started up in 2010, we had a goal to reach about 5,500 pounds per robot was kind of the goal we had set for ourselves at that time. And that's where we started off, and we hit that goal pretty quick. With the help of Dairyland and Greg and all the FMS support, we were able to get to our goal pretty quickly. And we had to do that to support 2 families. You know, I had my parents and me and my wife. We got 3 kids, so we had to make sure this financially made sense for us. Not just to have robots, you got to have a profitable robot farm. And with all the resources we have, we got to make sure it's efficiently used. You know, we do cover crops and things to make the land more efficient the way we practice farming. We try to milk more cows efficiently to have more flexibility and time with our family. I try to not have to be tied down to the farm as much as possible. There's days, you're given the vaccinations and other protocols, but in general, we try not to live at the farm. We envision doing our chores in the morning and night and leave it be. Let it do its job. And we can monitor that with cameras or the apps on our phone. We're capable of doing that while not being there. We can be at wrestling events or chasing the kids at home. I mean, that's the goal we envision at Richland Dairy.
As a rule, we generally don't go in the barn only to fetch the cows.
Yep, and not in the afternoon.
Not in the afternoon.
Morning and night only.
Yeah.
And just stay out of there. That's how we envision doing it, and it works really well for us.
It's Andy and I, both of our wives work off the farm. We do not hire any help per se for the dairy cows. And we handle all the crop work ourselves.
When I was in college, I went down to Pennsylvania, and I got to see my first robotic farm in 2008 or 9. And at that time, it was a deal of L robot we got to see, but the concept was still the same. And I got to see how they managed their time and how the concept of robots was. So that's the first trigger in 2008, I'm going to say, is when I first saw them in action and seeing the lifestyle of what the robot life was like. So we started doing some numbers, and
we worked with our farm management guy, and he did out various cash flows, and we priced robots versus a double-8 parlor with a new barn.
And remember, we only had a 42 stanchion barn from 1890, which you won't have any pictures of because it's gone, but that's what we had beforehand. So we had to build new from scratch regardless.
Right.
Blank piece of paper.
So we were kind of lucky that way because we're starting over. We're starting from nothing. I mean, it just ground. So that worked real well.
And every time we ran that cash flow, if by the time you put a parlor, a holding area in, one robot was already paid for just in those 2 circumstances. If you're pricing new to new, a double 8 in a holding area compared to would pay for one robot.
And then it depends on what you value your time with, how long it takes to repay on the labor side. I mean, $2 an hour or $80 an hour, you figure them out. You do the math, whichever way you want to do it. But now we're able to get all this information. We never really figured that in when we did our cash flows. I mean, the rumination and activity and the scale, all that stuff was extra then. The information we're gathering back is worth a lot.
Right, it's hard to even put a value on it, but to catch cows getting sick days in advance, you can't even put a value on that. You're getting ahead of it before they even start showing really symptoms of getting sick when it's too late or it's going to cost more to get ahead of it.
There's people like back from the church row. You can come up here and sit. There's chairs up here.
So some of the stuff we're starting to implement here is, on the cow health side of things is we now have the MQC2 sensors. So it gives you cell count per quarter or per cow, but you have conductivity per quarter. So another practice we've started in the last year is selective dry off. So if cows aren't at a certain cell count level, we're not implementing any antibiotics at dry off. It's a way for us to save money on antibiotics and not put something in a cow that doesn't have a problem. So that's some of the tools that we're able to have every day to help us save money and just be more efficient. And a little bit on the feeding protocols. That's something we're constantly tweaking with. We do like liquid feed, GlucoSure in the robot. That a lot of little tweaks to help those fresh cows get off to a good start. things that we've been adjusting and implementing over the last couple of years. And with the robots and seeing their butter fat, their protein, you can monitor how much pellets you're supposed to give them and if that's working. But when you switch things around, all that stuff that you can see every day if something you're doing is working. And so it's an easy way to fine tune stuff in your programs.
We also use on the back side of the robot the selection gate, and if he can mark on his phone or I can mark on the phone if a cow's in heat to be bred, tell the robot to select that cow, and she's caught in the catch pen, and so the cows are there ready to be bred when we get to the barn.
Yeah, so no cows are chased around. We do have headlocks for some, for vaccinations and stuff, but all breeding.
Or herd checks.
Yep, for all breeding or all miscellaneous foot health stuff is all done off to the side, not disturbing the other cows, and it's just an easy way for us to handle the cows and the cows to feel comfortable and not be chased around right before breeding or any kind of that stuff that might disturb their day.
That was the morning after the storm. We're having a bad day. We cut that's looking back. Go ahead, one there. That's from the west looking east. That's the roof of the freestall.
The headlocks and the stalls that were in the barn is what kept most of the cows alive. It fell down to about 4 feet tall.
So about right here.
That's what saved 98% of the cows, is the fact that the barn caught on the headlocks and the stalls. So what you see is what it was that night, and we retrieved 117 cows out of there that night because of the stalls and the headlocks. And when the rafters came down, the rafters are 12,
individual pins
12 feet apart.
So
we had 12-foot pins, and we just slowly cut them out. Took us
took about an hour to load that whole herd out.
Yep. And we just had 4 or 5 people with us that knew cows, and we slowly got them out.
It probably took 40 man hours just to get a path to the barn to get the trailers in there. We loaded that whole herd. We loaded our cows to people that are driving, and we didn't know who they were. And they didn't know where they were going.
How far, is it about a mile, half a mile down to Purpose?
About a half a mile of cars were waiting.
It was all full of trailers, just pure trailers, a half a mile long. We didn't make any calls. They just showed up. And that's what it would look like, but pitch black at night, trying to find them cows.
Our electric man came that night and temped us some power floodlights to get. You couldn't see this far. It was just dark. The power was out through for the whole county there.
Our biggest hiccup we had was the power lines were across the driveway on the ground. That was our biggest hang up. We had to wait about 3 hours to get the power lines removed so we could get the trailers in the yard. That was the biggest hang up we actually had, was just getting the power lines removed to safely get to get trailers across that night.
That was our mixing and machine storage shed.
Nothing's been removed. That's all that was left. Roof was all gone. That was in fields. A lot of that stuff made it about 3 miles away. Yep. And
We actually chopped silage the day before. Our custom guy was in there, and he chopped our feed, and the field was right to the east of us, and so that roof was in the field to the east. Our insurance man adjusted at 220 bushels an acre. The custom guy was going to the next door field, and he averaged 108. The wind put 100 bushels of ground on the ground.
So we did find a robotic herd to help us house the cows that night, or for about 2 nights. We just needed a place to put 117 cows.
Andy dried off 40 cows on the road. Anything that milked 90 or less, we just dried them off.
That was pregnant, yep.
That was pregnant, we just dried them off. And the first farm that we took them to, they were a little nervous. They didn't have enough feed for us. And let's just say their management style is different than our management style.
But there was very
But
welcome. At least we had a place to put them.
We were very gracious that they took us in, and then our cows were moved again on was it Monday or Sunday?
Monday morning.
Monday morning.
We split them between 2 farms. One was her uncle's farm, and one was a farm I did an internship at. And
they made room for us.
They made room for our
They
cows.
dried their cows off and did things. I don't know how it worked, but it worked.
so once we got the cows figured out, now we had to first clean up.
I
And
text messaged the builder at 6:30 in the morning, the following morning, and I asked the guy, "Are you in the office?" And before I put my phone away, he calls, "Yeah, I hear you had trouble last night." He knew.
I had to meet with the robot people and the banker, insurance. It was a very stressful couple weeks there. One of the things we needed to know is it was getting late in September, early October. In Minnesota, your building time comes to a short halt pretty quick because of the snow. So it was about a week after the storm. We met with our banker. I told him, hey, I need some money, but I don't think I'm going to get paid for it. I know I get paid from insurance. I have no idea how much.
And when?
And he said, all right, well, let's get her done. Builder showed up about 10 minutes later, and I said, all right, banker's here, said he'll give us the money, and let's get the rafters and everything ordered. He's like, yeah, I ordered them last week already for you. So the builder knew we were building before we did. And he said they'll probably be here in about a month, the rafters.
The funny thing is we actually looked at the A5s the summer before our storm. I mean, Greg was up there, and you know, he's a salesman, so he does the salesman spiel, you know, and all that work. So, and it's like changing your engine out in the tractor when you're going down the field. You cannot stop the robot. It's how are you going to switch this thing out? You know, we were full. We couldn't do anything, and so you're going to ask this. How did we do insurance? So I'll just tell you, okay. We had some issues, okay. The building was fully what we call replacement cost, but you have to fight to get that back. So at the end of the day, new robots, new feed pusher, new everything in the barn.
Everything except concrete.
Everything except the concrete. Tractor's fixed, skid loader's fixed. We were able to do that with insurance for less money than we could have just traded robots for. I would not recommend doing it though, okay?
Right. Find an alternative.
Yeah, do something different. So we were back up. We were actually ready to milk in 100 days, 102 days. So we were actually back milking.
We probably could have pushed it to 92 days, but it was Christmas. And we wanted to have one more holiday.
One more holiday.
One more holiday where no chores and not have to worry about Christmas.
So that's 97 cows came back January 2nd, and of that 97, I think about 80 were original cows. Is that right?
That's about right. Yep.
And
we did lose cows that initial night, but through the transportation of 3 other farms and just natural
stress
culling,
of different feed, the stress of different cows, moving, all that stuff. Then
there was about 30 or 40 animals that did not make it back, but that's just the reality. And I'm very happy we got this many back. That exceeded my goals.
So to fill, you know, we knew when the cows were calving, we're milking half of our herd is first calf heifers.
Yeah. So one thing we used to be about 120 cows milking with an A3 Next model. With the A5 model, we are currently milking 140 cows for 2 robots, 70 robot. We have pushed it to 73 robot, but 140 is kind of our sweet spot that we feel comfortable with. 50% are heifers. In the last 2 to 3 months, we've comfortably been averaging about 6,800 pounds per robot. We've hit 7,100 a couple times.
Each robot has hit 7 per day, but not on the same day.
So we'd like to consistently be over that 7,000 pounds in the next year. That's kind of our goal to be at. And we're running about a 97-pound tank average. And remind you, that's with first calf heifers. So we had what I'm expressing is the farms that took care of our original cows as well did a phenomenal job to have that kind of average 9 months after storm. We actually had that average 3 weeks after we started. So the cows were housed at their facilities, did a phenomenal job taking care of them, getting them bred back. It was a really nice treat to have them take care of them that well. We had some really great support from Leadstone. Without the builders, bankers, Leadstone, there's no way. 102 days might seem like a long time for construction, but mind you, it was in the middle of winter as well. November, December was not kind to us.
It was not builder friendly in the months.
No, there was mornings they would take our udder singer and go heat up the rafters so they could put insulation down. So all the rafters all had to be melted just to build on every day. So when you think 102 days in the winter, that's amazing to have that done that quickly.
The one pen.
Which one?
The one pen.
The one pen. Now,
Oh, yep. We used to have
our original robots were A3s, and they were designed in the main barn with 2 pens, left and a right. And shortly after, ours really weren't even running yet, and then the A4s came out. So our robots were basically obsolete before we started. So now we get to try new ones again. And now the concept is 1 pen.
for 2 robots or more. And that feature's been really nice. So if you're doing maintenance on one robot, all the cows still have access to a robot. For fetching cows, it makes life a lot easier. We're actually averaging 1 to 2 fetch cows for both robots per day.
With a different newer robot, there's just plain less fetch cows. There's just no 2 ways around it.
We used to average about 5 to 6 cows per robot with an A3 Next. That was just any given day, 5, 6 cows per robot. With A5, it's been 1 to 2 cows total, so 1 cow per robot per day. It's the brand new heifers that haven't learned. They're averaging about 7 days to learn the system, is what a heifer, for us, it takes a heifer 7 days to figure out the system. Yeah.
And again, we talk about the robots are milking. The robots don't make the milk. It's the cow that makes the milk. So you want to keep that cow as comfortable as you can, whether the sand beds or the airflow or no flies or all the above, but the cows are the ones that make milk.
It's a lot of little things for sure. Good hoof care, feeding has to be right on T. Yeah, I can't express enough on feeding. Feeding's very critical. I've always loved using the Lele apps. It's really fun walking through, and if you see a cow and you just want to look at her number and see her production, where she's at in her repro, it pops up instantly. It's nice to look at a cow, not have to run back to the computer and think, what number was that again? It's right there, instant, and it's very convenient to use.
I actually use it too in the morning. I can still be in my jammies and see if I got any fetch cows.
That's a true story. Some of the differences that we've seen with the A5 versus the A3 Next is the arm. The arm comes in now with no air. It's all electric motors, which means it's quieter, it's more comfortable for the
Smoother,
cows,
it's
quicker,
faster, yes.
and a lot more maintenance friendly. So that's one of the things I'm really excited for is how the arm operates. And actually, because the arm moves so quickly and quietly, we actually prep the cows longer because it's putting the cups on too soon. So that's one of the nice features we've noticed is we can prep the cows more, and they're comfortable, and it's just kind of a win-win situation for us. This is the layout of our barn right now.
We did not change the outside perimeter of the concrete. We live in the beloved county of Rice, and if we wanted to change even 1 foot, I would need a new feedlot permit, a new manure management plan, and that would have taken months and months to get through that. So we actually talked about going to like 180 cows or more cows right away, and it just for the time thing to get going, we just stayed with the cement that we had.
And we're in the same footprint that we thought 120 cows was too full for. But with the A5 and the cow flow, we're using the same footprint and having 140 milk cows, so about 35% overcrowding is where we run, and that's kind of where we're comfortable with. And there's always cows eating, milking, and laying down, so you never see every stall full at any
I
time.
made a special effort last night to look, and there was 3 stalls on this side and 4 on that side. It was empty yet.
Yep, so we're comfortable using about that 35 to 40% overcrowding, and things just flow really, really nice for us. Yeah, actually went back. One more back. In this top up corner is the pen. So all the cows, we breed, they route. There's a pen that they can go in, and that they catch. There's a head gate in that pen. So all cows, that's where they're bred, worked on their feet, or anything that we want to work on them separately instead of out in the crowd bothering other cows. That's where all of them are treated or worked on specially. And that feature has been really helpful for us. Before we had a left and a right robot, so we didn't really have the option to do that. Now it's both robots, one pen. It's really simple for us with the routing gates.
And then on the south side, the little pen, we have a lane to the dry cow barn. So any fresh animal we can just walk them. Well, what the length of this room? We just walk them in there. No trailers.
No trailers.
And it's a one-man show or a one-woman show, I suppose. So one person can move cows very simple, very easily,
That was
very
actually,
safely.
when we were designing this in 2010, that was our goal. Not that he's ready to retire, but we wanted to make this a one-man show if need be. And because one of us is either going out on date night or going to a movie, or I shouldn't say date night lately, it's been a hectic year, but we wanted to make this a one-man show so it's not labor intensive. Typically, we can have chores done, one person, morning and night, 30 to 45 minutes in the morning and 30 to 45 minutes at night. That's the only time we're in the barn, and that's it. And we don't go middle of the day fetching or nothing. We just get our stuff done, get them out, leave them alone, and that works the best for us.
Can we talk about free time right now?
Yep. So with all the 140 cows in there, we're averaging about 6 to 10% free time. So there's still plenty of time for cows to learn the system and go through.
Any boss cows are doing something else, so the timid cows have a chance to get in there then.
Yeah. And then we average for milkings today. We average close to about 3 milkings a day, give or take 0.1, so 2.9 to 3.1. And our refusals is usually about 1 refusal per day.
And the failure rate is quite low. We average like 0.3 failures per day.
Yeah.
We've went a week without any failures. So they got lucky the day they filmed. We hit 7 that day, so. Well, I guess at this time we'll open up for questions. So if you have any questions or comments or just plain rude remarks, have at her. Anybody? Okay.
What's your top cow producing at this time? How many times a day does she get milked?
We have actually about 5 cows in that 150 to 160 pound range, and they average probably close to 5 to 6 and 5 for sure milkings per day. We're trying to execute about 30 pounds per milking is what our goal is to reach. So, and there's quite a few of them at that.
The record in the barn is 189. We have not hit a 200-pound cow yet, but we will.
Our goal is to have more of a balance, not 1 or 2 really high cows, more 130 as an average, more mid to high milk bringing cows versus 1 really high cow is kind of what we shoot for nutrition-wise.
Questions? Yep, here we go.
You mentioned that the first robot that you saw was De La Valle. What made you decide to choose Lately over De La Valle?
That's a really good question.
I'll handle this one. When we looked at them, there was about 6 companies that made robots in the world, 6 or 7, I think. And in the United States, we were allowed to look at 2, either the Lately or the De La Valle. And each robot had different features, of course, and some were good and some were not so good. Well, then I looked at the different dealers, the De La Valle dealer, and I looked at the Lately dealer. Didn't like either one. So it was down to who I disliked the least. We talked about this a lot. It's just, there was features on each machine, but the Lely machine is a better machine.
Well, another thing we actually did, we got 5 phone numbers from Lely
Yes,
producers.
that was another good
And
point.
5 numbers from DLL people all over the Midwest. And we asked, what's your production, what's your maintenance cost? Everybody in Lely gave us their production and their maintenance costs, good or bad. Everybody did.
They didn't do that with
DLL,
DLL.
we got 2 of the 5 to maybe give us their production, and nobody would tell me their maintenance costs. Okay, that's fine. So that was a big red flag for us at the time, is even if it was high or low, I would just wanted to know, and nobody would tell us. It was a question that we couldn't get answered, and that was a red flag for us at the time. I don't know what that answers would be now today, but I do know that our maintenance now was not bad with the A3 Nex. I know with the A5.
These are going to be better.
These are a lot
These
less.
are going to be better. For as far as maintenance and user friendly, they're better. So.
That's my opinion, or what I would tell people is just get phone numbers of producers that have them, and ask the hard questions. Most farmers will tell you the answers straight out, and if they don't answer it might be a red flag.
The other thing I just want to say, and obviously Laley's brought us here and is putting this on, so we definitely support Laley, but we are 2 robots in the whole world, and they treat you like family. Every time you're around them, they know your name, they know our kids' names. If we have an issue, like, oh man, we need to work on that. Let's see who we can call. They call right up the line. They share their numbers. They're just very supportive. And so if we had to go back and pick again tomorrow, and we had that opportunity, as you saw, and we didn't even think twice. So that's the other big thing, the technology piece, the quality, and then the people. So.
Thank you for the kind words, but this is actually their day. We don't want this to be a Lely commercial or anything like that. It's a great question and everything, but this is sort of their day. One of the unique things that we have, why we wanted to go with the Moyer family for this, is the fact that they're long-term users. And we haven't had a tour yet, a virtual tour here at World Dairy Expo, where the robots have been installed and somebody's actually been using them for 8+ years. So we think the fact that they got a tremendous amount of experience, they've already went through you're on your 3rd generation kind of a robot, that a lot of the things that they've learned along the way to get them to that 7,000 pounds of milk that their goal is, because that's not an easy task to do. So don't walk out of here thinking that you can get 7,000 pounds of milk a day, because there's a lot of management, a lot of hard work that goes into that, and that's hats off to the Meyer family for the management that they do. All right, questions again?
Do you mind just sharing a little bit more detail about the nutrition in terms of where you balance the TMR and how much you're adding into the robot pellets, or are you using mash pellets? And just talk a little bit about how you're feeding them and what you think has been your success to get to that level of production.
Absolutely. As an average, our cows are probably averaging about 12 pounds a pellet as a herd. Some cows are receiving 18 pounds, some cows are receiving as little as 6. We do one base pellet and liquid propylene glycol, I call it, but GlucoSure, just for the fresh cows for the first 30 days of lactation. It's with a titanium pump. That's what comes with the Lely. We balance the ration for about, I think, 85% of expected milk in the bunk. I think that's the number. We go more of the reward system with the pellets. We kind of pull as much energy as we're allowed out of the bunk and reward them in the robot. That's what's worked really well for us. And the cows will tell you if you're not feeding them enough. If they're starting to go through the robot 3.3 to 3.5 times per day, they're telling you, hey, I'm hungry. Vice versa, if you're at 2.5 visits, they're saying, I'm full, I don't want to come here. That's what's really, the visits tell us how we're doing, along with the components as well. We've been starting to back off on pounds of milk to try to push more components. That's what we're selling, components, not fluid milk. So that's kind of the strategy we've been working on in the last couple of years. That's, I feel, has worked really well for us.
I guess, could you identify maybe a couple key management things do you think are important in a robot system that help you guys be successful and get the production that you have?
Feed and feet. That's
That's the two key ones.
the
yeah.
two key ones that we focus on: nutrition and feet. We every cow is trimmed at least once a year when they're dry, and as needed if more. And feeding, we're all about forage quality. We've invested heavily in our hay line of equipment to get the hay up and baleage. That's our big push is forage and having low mycotoxin quality feed. No, check for mycotoxins. Check stuff that might be red flagged that could potentially cause a bottleneck in our situation. And then feed and a lot of little things. Water quality, staying out of the barn. That's one of the hardest things to tell farmers when you put robots in is, all right,
Stay
get in the
home.
barn, get your stuff done, and get out. That's the best thing you can do is let the cows figure it out themselves, in my opinion. And I've seen a lot of people that spend a lot of time, I think that cow's at 10 hours, we should go get her. Just give her another 2 hours. Let's see if she goes in. That's some of the advice I try to give people.
Oh, so I was wondering, how do you cope if a robot breaks? How it takes how long for the specialist to come and fix that problem? And my second question is, in South Africa, we normally experience load shedding where the power sometimes is off, and then
Yeah.
we have to attach the tractor, the generators, and work. So how do you cope?
Good questions. We've always had a generator on our farm. For your second question, we have
A tractor power generator.
tractor power generator. We have to only drag that out with our power company maybe once a year. As for if the robot's broke down, it calls your phone. Most of the stuff can be diagnosed. Farmer to fix the robot, I'd say 95% of the time, we can fix it ourselves with the parts we have, or just going to the robot and restarting it down. Like your cell phone needs to just start it over again. If it's the other 5% of the problem that cannot be fixed by us, we have a dealer within about 45 minutes. We can get
First thing we do is we call, and a lot of times we're going to get it fixed over the phone. If that doesn't work, then the technician guy has to show up, and that's about we have not had that on this set, have we?
No, it's been pretty bulletproof.
Yeah.
But 45 minutes, we could be up and running again. Does that answer your question?
That's a good question, because we only got an hour of downtime in a day. So if your robot is down, it doesn't catch up. I mean, the milk is gone. You lost that milk. That's a good question. Yeah.
And that's why we shoot for about 5 to 10% free time to allow for mishaps or stuff that you cannot predict happen. So that's why we shoot for that 5 to 10% free time to make everything flow comfortably every day. Yeah, so a lot of parts that we keep on hand are like the brushes, inflations, the cups are attached by a string to a chain, stuff that's minor, pretty cost not too bad. We keep that stuff on hand at all times just to have it because we know we're going to use it eventually. So most of the stuff that you would need, you have in inventory to fix it in a timely manner.
What is your cell count been ranging from what to the best? And also with sand bedding, does the new wheelies, are they any different for the chains and stuff?
Well, we were in the old barn, and that was small stalls, and we were really having trouble with snag count. We were running that 500 range constantly. The first go around, we weren't done with the robots, but the barn was done. So we housed the cows in the new barn, remember? And then we played Amish, and we run them down the old barn. We went from 500 cell to 250 cell count in 4 milkings. Sand. Okay? Now, when Mr. Robot shows up, same cows, same barn, milked with a robot, always the same, always consistently, always the same. We went down to about a 120 to 140 somatic cell, and that's where we are.
In the summer, we might run up to 180 average.
Yeah, I don't think, never over 200 though.
But yeah, never.
And we don't do any like treatment per se. They just play it out. Whatever milks that day, that's what milks.
And as for maintenance and sand on the robot, the strings, if you don't have the chain kits, the strings will wear in about 10 days. That was a game we
That
used
was a game we played.
We used to play.
Ah, she'll make it overnight. That's good. Then they
The string won't break. I'll make Al do it tomorrow. And
3:30 a.m. phone rings.
the chain kits came available to us probably in the last 4 years, 5 years. God's biggest gift to us.
Well, we went from changing strings every 10 days, 2 weeks, to once a year.
Right. The chains will last that long. And they don't cause any more failures. It just makes maintenance a lot easier. For maintenance protocol for us is actually very simple. Before, we used to have to calibrate the old robots every day. We'd have to wash them off. We'd have to check the strings. Now, wash the deck off.
Wash them off.
Wash them off, 5 minutes. I'm out. It self-calibrates. With the chain kits, you don't have to worry about maintenance. They've really made them simpler to use.
We got Al and Andy up here, but don't forget Sam and Sharon. They might have some words of wisdom here too. So if you have any questions pointed their way, don't be afraid to ask.
So my other question is how accurate it is for detecting mastitis and stuff. And at the dairy, we used to scrape cows so that we can make them comfortable, and the hormone from the brain to or release the milk. So how the robot does that to work? I heard that you have said the robot, they make cows more comfortable and stuff. So I was wondering how, because they don't strip for sure.
So,
well, part of it, cows are females, okay? They have their own little thing, okay? I'm just saying, I'm going to get in trouble, I'm pretty sure. But they all have, I bet if you go to the parking lot of the bar or the grocery store, you park in the same spot. Or go to church, you sit in the same spot. Cows have their own thing. They got their own routine. Certain cows want to be milked at a certain time in a certain robot. And there's cows that milk every 10 hours. Every 10 hours, like within 5 minutes.
You talk about cows being comfortable, so there's no one around them, getting them out of their stall, pounding them to get in a holding area. All right, it's your turn to get in the stall. Now it's the cow wants to walk by it, and at 2 in the morning, she's comfortable. She walks in. There's nobody. There's a lot of cows that don't like people. They just want to do their own thing. And while they're in the robot, they're getting pellets. They're comfortable. You talk about the quality. Every day we're getting conductivity, so we're detecting blood, mastitis, different colors in the milk. Now we have the MQC2 sensors that's detecting the live cells in the milk for cell count. Every milking, if you want. So you're getting ahead of anything that's potentially starting to arrive in her system before it really activates. And that's stuff that it's easier to detect with it. And it flags it for you in reports. So if you don't have to click on every cow to find it. It'll be a special report saying, hey, you should check out this cow. It's starting to flag her. So it's very user-friendly.
Maybe touch on the brushes, on the prepping.
Okay.
That's where you're sort of going to.
So can I clarify, you were talking about stripping them out when they have mastitis and the comfort to help them release the milk when they get into the robot, correct? Yeah. You want to talk about that a little bit?
So the prep is the same on every cow, which is what they get used to. The brush comes in, it starts on the same quarter, goes to the next quarter, and it's the same every time. And they get used to it, and they get comfortable with it, and they start letting their milk down by the 4th or 5th milking based on how the brush starts. They know once the brush touches them, okay, now I'm getting to let the hormones down to start releasing my milk. I'd say by the 4th or 5th milking, they get programmed, okay, this is comfortable, this is what it's supposed to feel like. And they get really, as they're getting prepped, they're getting pellets so they feel comfortable. And I think it's consistent, and that's what makes the big difference. That's it. Yep.
And as far as mastitis, we don't get a lot of mastitis, but if you were to need to strip out a cow, you just have to do that manually, which is pretty rare.
And you could program that cow not to milk. If you want to be around when you know that cow has mastitis, you could program the computer really quick on your phone and say, hey, I want to milk her under supervision. So that when she walked in the robot, it'll call your phone, hey, this cow just walked in, you want to help milk her or not? So you have options like that with the Lely system when you have sick cows as well.
I'm just wondering, are you always there to breed a cow when it needs to be bred, or because you said you don't go into the barn to breed the cows in line
We
like
use
other dairies?
The robots come with activity.
Oh, they kind of there.
And so we use that, the collar has the activity chip in there. And when we started the robots, both of us were in that barn for all day for 4 or 5 days. And the robot said, such and such a cow, like 23, cow 23 is in heat. And Andy goes, well, I was out there, no heat. I was out there, no heat. Guess what? She bled off. The activities pick up that heat like 98%. Would you get, I mean, they're good.
And for our protocol is if a cow is in heat, about 3 or 4 hours before we're going to do chores, I say, when this cow walks through the robot, put her in this pen. So she's already in the pen, ready for me to breed when I get to the farm. So I'm not chasing her to get to there. It's just a more comfortable way of getting her to that pen, not getting her riled up, and it works for both of us.
So you have to be there most of the day to just to in case a cow comes up and heat
No,
is
we'll breed,
detected.
it's AM, PM. If it shows up heat at night, we'll breed them the next morning.
In the morning, okay.
Yes, we still use AM, PM rule.
Okay.
And we put it so they're not stuck in that pen for multiple hours without anybody there. We plan ahead, like, all right, we're going to chores in 3 hours. We'll put that range. That's when, if she goes to the robot, she goes in the pen. So it's not like a cow's getting stuck in that pen for 8 hours by herself. We have parameters set for that.
Even if they are, there's water available. Okay.
So what do you guys do if a cow were to freshen in and have a swollen udder? Do you guys ever have problems with the robot, not being able to attach an udder that's swollen or teats that are close together? Or how do you guys combat that problem?
Good question. Generally, I'd say you don't have to help them attach on 98% of them. There's that 2% that's strong edema or they just have a weird udder design. That time you might have to spend a couple days, I call it tricking the laser, using your hands or ways to make the laser think that's the teat. We generally don't keep those cows. We find other farms that have parlors or stanchion barns that are willing to accommodate that, but it's pretty rare in our circumstance, but it does happen. But generally...
Depends on how good the cow is, too, if we're going to keep her or not.
But generally, after a couple days, the edema has gone away, and it works just fine. But it's a good question.
Sharon, Sam, it's been what? How many years?
For...
Robots.
Oh, for robots. I thought together.
No. That's too much information.
Yeah.
But
we built a barn in 2010 with
all
robots.
right. So what has changed from then to now with the technology?
You want to say?
Your husband is in the house all the time.
It's
not so much.
It's been a nice thing, so we started dating in high school and we always caught the late movie, right? Or you had to be home by 7 o'clock for milking because we are not early morning people, right? As a general rule in the Meyer family. So it's the flexibility, and that's what we talked about multiple times. Andy talked about it in the video. And then now that we have little kids, like, okay, sometimes we do chores at 5, sometimes we do chores at 7. And we try to keep it fairly consistent because there are those, 1 to 2 cows that don't go in on their own. But for the most part with the technology, like that's by far my favorite part. We can take our kids to things. If I have to work late or whatever, Andy can cover that. And that's something that you typically do not get when you marry a dairy farmer. And I did not come from a dairy family, so the whole lifestyle was a huge adjustment. And so I only had to be with him for a few years prior to our robots, so I only suffered for a short time.
All right, one more question up front. 2 more then.
How do you do the dry-off management? Because
is there any room in the barn for the dry-off cows, or do you bring them to another farm? And if they are close to the due date, do they are close to the robots, or how do you manage that?
So this is the main barn here. There's actually a little walkway down here about 80 feet, and it's another sand-bedded freestall barn. They're housed in there, and then when they're about 2 weeks from close-up, they go on a bedded pack in that room. And they have a camera system on them, so we're able to detect any calvings and watch how that goes. For dry-off, they do get 2 shots for vaccinations, and they get selective dry-off treatment based on their cell count. That's how we've been working with it. And past history of mastitis. If they've had mastitis in the previous lactation, they will get antibiotics just as a protocol. And there is no room. We don't have any dry cows in the milk barn. We're running full. There's no dry cows, or we don't do any training. That's another option you have with Layla. You can do pre-training on animals where they go in the robot, just get fed a little bit of pellets, arm goes in, moves around, leaves. It's a great way to start up a robot, but it's definitely time consuming and it ties up the robot. So for us, that's an option we do choose not to use, but it is a nice option if you have availability and time.
How much feed do you can you control to feed per cow, and keep how much feed you're feeding per cow under control?
Can you revise that?
We can only adjust the pellets. As far as the forage part, that's free choice, and they can eat as much or as little as they want. The only dry matter that we can adjust is the pellets.
Yep, and corn silage is our flex. So if the cows happen to be eating more, we'll just adjust more corn silage. Otherwise,
we can't do the forage on an individual basis. They're on their own, whatever that you want to eat.
One quick one. All right.
You said you were milking 140 cows, and it's just the family running it. If you increase your cows, what number would it be to where you would have to hire another employee?
So that's one thing we screwed up on in 2010. We thought 2 robots would be enough work for 2 guys. Financially, it was perfect. Workload, not enough. We almost trip on each other. I shouldn't say we begged to do chores, but it's a different lifestyle we weren't ready for. It's comfortable. I would say 1 guy, 3 robots is a sweet spot for us, maybe 4 if you had the right. It's all about the setup.
Are you going to raise all your own feed? Are you going to raise your calves? I mean, there's some variables there, but we should probably went to 3 robots originally. But it would have been quite a jump now from a 40 cow stanchion to 200 and something milking.
All right, great. We talked a little bit about life lessons, and here's a family that went through a tremendous tragedy on the dairy, and it's awfully good to have them up here share that experience. Not that they want to go through it again, but the fact that they can come out of it in such a positive way. So congratulations. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us.